correct. Mihály is the lady from Hungary. Peter Kažimír. But these names are not correct. Who is it again? From? And then the other person? Because the names are... Okay. And the lady is called again? Miroskova. Okay, welcome back for a session which I think links up very well with the previous session, but a bit a different perspective. I just mentioned to my panel members that one of the interesting things I found of the Tatra summit that I get, me coming from Brussels, I come from a think tank in Brussels SEPS, that each time I come here I have a different perspective on economic policy making than what I hear or what I feel in Brussels. Brussels has a very much of a Western European view on these things, but if you come here, you come home with a different view, and that's what I would like to get from this panel as well. So we will have a discussion. Unfortunately, the person from Poland couldn't be here because his plane couldn't get off because of fog in Poland. But we have the 3 other Visegrad countries represented, and we can have a good discussion about economic policy making. Economic policy making is seen from the new member states, from 3 important new member states, and then of course put it in the context of what is being discussed at the Eurozone level, at the European level. I have a series of questions which we discussed which we have prepared, which we discussed before. My intention is that we go through some of these questions, we have some replies from the different representatives, and then I can throw it open for questions from your side. I will also see what is coming up through this Slido system, that I can raise questions with you, but so please don't hesitate to be active right away. We will just start with a general issue, which was again already touched on this morning by, amongst others, Commissioner or Vice President Dombrovskis. This morning, the Commission released its new forecast. So what are the perspectives for the Eurozone? What are the perspectives overall for the EU economically? We've heard some people saying, look, we are still not out of the woods yet. Others are saying the perspectives are good. Of course, they are not tremendous. It's not like in the United States, but we still foresee a growth of about 1.6, 1.8% for this year, even more probably for next year. So I want to see what is your perspective.
Of the Eurozone?
Eurozone or EU, yes.
Or EU. Actually, the stability and prosperity of the Eurozone is our utmost interest. We are a small, open economy, highly interconnected with the Eurozone countries. There is a need for the economies to become more resilient through implementing deeper integration, and we fully understand that. However, the approach to Euro and non-Euro area members should stay balanced. And we believe that European Union got a lot of important steps in these years. This is European semester with this important tool, and we really welcome its improvement.
Okay, Mr. Lesak, or you finished?
Or maybe I can continue later on.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Or
so as we see it, of course, from the Hungarian viewpoint, for us, of course, the Eurozone and Western Europe's growth is of crucial importance, just as in the case of the Czech Republic, given the openness of the economy. And of course, our major markets are in Europe. And of course, with growth, demand is also increasing. To cut it short, I think that the situation is improving, probably a little bit slower than expected 1 year or 2 years ago, but still a steady, slow increase is visible, and that's important, and that's good news for us. The second point that compared with the growth figures, basically the growth figures of Central and Eastern Europe, it's probably much smaller. In Hungary, for instance, last year we had a 3.7% growth, quite robust. This year that will be somewhat lower, 3.1%, which means that it is almost the double or sometimes the double of the European level. And that's good because that gives us at least a little possibility to converge in real terms of course, that still will be a long road. But we are happy that the situation is even steadily but slowly improving, and that gives more possibilities for Hungary, and I also think that the other Central and Eastern European economies.
Okay, and then the only Eurozone member in the group?
Yes, as obviously the only Euro area member state representative in the panel, I should probably focus first of all on the realities of the Eurozone, which are often not so shiny, and I'm not talking about the economic prospects now, but rather from the institutional point of view. And probably throughout the panel we'll get to brighter perspectives on Euro area and future membership of other Visegrad 4 peers. So what I recall from my very short appointment in this position is that there are many periods of serious distress where we witnessed that the euro was, so to say, on the edge of the cliff, and this definitely. So I recall as the feeling of uncertainty, and this is something. This constant crisis mode over the past couple of years definitely reduces the attractiveness of this club for our colleagues in Poland, Czech Republic, or Hungary. And these doubts about the one-way ticket to the monetary union that we witnessed either this summer or in the summer of 2012 are a clear signal that we should be really more proactive instead of just reacting. And so on the one hand, I do definitely understand the concerns of our Visegrad neighbors, that they will think twice, basically, before they give up their monetary autonomy. On the other hand, I totally understand also their concerns that the EU is a sort of a two-speed model at its present functioning, and this could complicate their perspective of their future joining of the Eurozone, and I think like Slovakia might feel the same if we were in their shoes. So basically, these are just the opening remarks, and hopefully further in the panel we can get to some, as I said, brighter perspectives.
Okay, thank you. I mean, he already hinted at the question I wanted to raise, but I probably will do it only in a moment. Let's say, who would become the next member of the Eurozone? You can think about it, and then I probably throw it to you, let's say, for a question. But we could probably first say, I mean, we have seen that the ECB has done important efforts over the last, say, 2 or 3 years, even more, but certainly has started with this quantitative easing about 8 to 10 months ago. Would this have facilitated the prospects for joining the Eurozone? Because if I look at the country which we are missing in this panel, Poland was often mentioned as being the country who could join the Eurozone, but then they said, yeah, but this exchange rate is too high, it will be uncompetitive and attractive for us. Now with quantitative easing, we've seen the euro, certainly the exchange rate to the dollar, to the pound sterling has declined importantly. Apparently not as much towards Hungary and Czech Republic.
Yeah, it would be very close to an accession. Then the question of quantitative easing, exchange rate movements might have a question. But of course, I think that we are further away still of the decision about when and how to get to the Eurozone. And that opens up the broad question, which my colleague has already made reference to, that there is 2 different Eurozones. The Eurozone before the crisis and the post-crisis Eurozone. And qualitatively, that's 2 different things in the sense that there was a strong belief before the crisis that the Eurozone membership is a kind of a guarantee that a state in any cases cannot go bankrupt. And we have seen through the crisis that the bonus, this premium of Euro membership, is not evident. I mean, the developments in certain countries, which certain countries got very, very close to go bankrupt, in de facto, proved that there is no absolute assurance. Contrary, the heterogeneity of the level of economic development in certain countries is a danger and a risk. That means that convergence, and especially not nominal convergence, but real convergence, has become even more important than we believed before the crisis. So the main point that first, I think, at least from the Hungarian viewpoint, we have to work hard to achieve a real convergence and get close to the Eurozone average. Otherwise, you might risk many things. The second point should reinvigorate itself. Can I put it in another form? The Eurozone used to be very sexy before the crisis. And it once has to make some makeup, whatever. I don't suggest any plastic surgery, but it has to be more sexy for the outsiders. Certain sex appeal elements should be reinforced. It has to be attractive once again. And it is clear that much more hard work, at least from Hungarian viewpoint, is before us in real convergence than we thought before the crisis. And that's one of the lessons. And from this point of view, the monetary policy autonomy, we see now, and it is proved, that we were lucky enough to have the monetary policy autonomy to play, to adjust, and having the exchange rate flexibility to react on the different impacts of the crisis. I stop here. I have many other comments here, but I don't want to monopolize the terrain.
No, I wanted to raise the same question with Ms. Jirosková from Czech Republic on...
I think I will not surprise as well. The Czech Republic still does not have the final date for joining the Eurozone. However, we have committed ourselves to prepare our arrangements to make it possible. But at the end, it will be the political decision we expect maybe of the next government. We observe with particular interest Slovakia from its adoption of euro, and especially during the recent Eurozone turbulences. It's most revealing example for us because our economies had a common past, still we have a lot of similarities. And absolutely agreed with the words of our Hungarian colleague that now it's quite a difficult time for the Eurozone and for doing a decision to enter it. It will not be an easy one.
If I remember, and many people in this audience will remember, Eurozone membership is automatic, meaning once you meet the criteria, I don't know exactly the criteria, I mean on inflation, on the long-term, whatever, the long-term interest rates, and then the movement within the band, exactly. So, yeah, and then the debt to GDP, but then if that's not a problem, as we know, let's say for the new member states. So basically, once you meet the criteria, you join.
I would precise a bit, the accession is not automatic. For two reasons. First, I mean, there are certain rules of the game in the treaty. And as you have mentioned, the so-called Maastricht criteria. And this is really fiscal deficit below 3%, but now, of course, with the Stability and Growth Pact, it is not the headline 3% inflation, but the structural inflation should be in order. So it has become a little bit more difficult to achieve, but it can be achieved, and it is achieved for the time being, for instance, by Hungary. The public debt ratio, which by principle should be below 60%. As I look around in the European Union, I would pick up very small number of countries being under 60%. If I can pick out some countries under 60%, they will be found mostly in the central and eastern part of the European Union, and not in the western part. Yeah. On the third element, that it has to be in the western part of the European Union, that's increasing still the public debt GDP ratio. In most countries in Central and Eastern Europe, it is decreasing. In Hungary, in the last 5 years, we have decreased it by 7%. So it's decreasing, going against the general trend of the European Union. It could, of course, be a faster process, but there are realities of life. For the third element, long-term interest rates, no problem with that. But the point here is that you have to spend 2 years with the ERM2, which is a kind of an exchange rate test, if you wish, compared to the euro. You have to be a low inflation. At least at the level of the 3 best performing countries of the European Union.
Which today is minus.
And once these all criteria are met, you can ask for joining for the euro. But it is, again, getting more complicated than that. Why? Because since then, the banking union has been established. And the banking union is a kind of an automatic institution or umbrella for all Eurozone member countries. So as never a country before joining the euro has tested what about the banking union. But it's not very complicated to see the scenario if one country among our Poland, Czech Republic or Hungary would ask for the euro membership, the banking union test should be taken. And of course there is another new implicit, I would say implicit requirement to be part of the European Union. And if we go ahead with the 5 presidents' reports and fiscal union and all these new institutions proposed, and it might be in place, all these issues, when you are getting closer to the euro membership, Eurozone membership, these questions, are you able and willing to and capable to join these structures?
Sorry, you mean the implicit test for joining the Eurozone is what is raised in the 5 presidents' report, these issues, like, the willingness to be part of an ever closer union, to move towards fiscal union, that's part of your implicit test.
What I mean that if I am from the outside and so far before the crisis I only had to look at the Maastricht criteria, now there are new additional implicit elements which has to be taken into consideration, and probably these institutions, the banking union, will be responsible to measure, to test that the new applicant is able, and on one hand able to meet the conditions and can meet the conditions. And that is an additional burden. That's what I mean, that new requirements emerged after the crisis, and maybe in the future, as the perspectives, the new structures will come out, again, new requirements will appear on the scene.
Thank you. Can I have your view, Ms. Juroskova, on that? Let's say whether you see there are more requirements now to join this monetary union, which are implicit, which are there, which are not yet rendered explicit, like, for example, as you were saying, banking union. Can you join the banking union, meaning the additional stress test for the financial system? And then other things which are brought up in the fiscal convergence process which we want to achieve. Yes. And then I will turn to you, but you're part of the Eurozone already, huh? Yeah.
Not worry for him now. But absolutely agreed, the criteria these days are much more complex than just fulfill the convergent criterion, as were mentioned by you at the beginning. Now it's important to focus more on macroeconomic analysis, focused on competitiveness or for absence of macroeconomic imbalances, or a lot of other indicators, which, as was said at the beginning, are not directly influenced by quantitative easing, which, as we discussed before, can help in some ways, but not in this point of view.
Okay. You want to add something as a Eurozone member state, whether you see it? You have joined in 2009, which was, already in the midst of the crisis, I must say. Look, do you see this as constraining now that you're members of the Eurozone, or on the contrary?
Well, if I may, I would not like to address directly this question. And probably, if you heard the minister talking in the previous panel, he said, yes, it was a very unfortunate time to join the Eurozone. Our experience with the Eurozone is the experience of a crisis. So that's what he indicated, and that's what I subscribe to. But as I said, there are very many reasons to believe it's good to be in the Eurozone, and there are very many reasons to believe that the future membership of our Visegrad peers is something desirable. I could observe that the knowledge of the accession criteria, at least in Hungary, is brilliant. So I think you're ready to join. I almost forgot what these all Maastricht criteria, accession criteria.
I had also almost forgotten. So I had to think hard.
Yes, but you started this part of the panel with the question of the ECB, and I believe the ECB did already what was necessary and is doing what is necessary, either with the QE or OMT. But I believe that we should not let the ECB the only actor working in this area. And there has to be probably some more risk takers. I know like it's a lot of member states are reluctant to that, but I believe that as it happened with monetary policy, that it was basically shifted to the central level, at least in some part, some macroeconomic stabilization function should be shifted even in the fiscal area to the central level. And we should not forget that the Eurozone, or the creation of the economic and monetary union, was meant to be to the benefit of stability of the whole EU, and therefore it is in the interest of everybody inside or outside the Eurozone to work on the Eurozone in terms of it being the stability haven it was promoted to be, which is right now we don't see it that way, but it was, and I believe there are still very high chances that it will be in the future, so that you will not hesitate, but you will rush to join the Eurozone very soon.
Can I just raise a question to the audience? When anybody has a view, who will be the next to join the Eurozone? Coming from this side of Europe, then from the side where I'm coming from. So nobody has a view on this? Otherwise, we'll have to take a vote, probably, and put 3 or 4 countries on. I don't know who masters this voting system, and you could put, who knows, Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland on the list. I don't think Bulgaria and Romania are very soon likely members of the Eurozone, or...
The point is...
And Croatia, but of course Croatia has only joined a year and a half ago, probably a bit too early.
Yeah. The point is, and it really shows the difference how we have looked upon the Eurozone before the crisis and how we look upon after the crisis, that there was really a kind of a implicit competition, if you wish. Who will join first? Who will be the second? And that really was in the minds of the people, everybody's people. We had certain beliefs and confidence in the Eurozone. Now, I think this competition is away. So I think in Central and Eastern Europe, those who are outside of the Eurozone yet, realize that first we have to make ourselves fit for being in the Eurozone. It's nice that I want to go to the Olympic Games, but I am not trained for, I can be a spectator. But if a real sportsman wants to participate in the Olympic Games, first the necessary training, preparation, many competitions where he qualifies or she qualifies is necessary. So we, at least in Hungary, we don't feel ourselves strong enough to compete for the membership at this moment of time. But I want to make one thing very clear, that the legal obligation for Hungary is evident. Yes, it is in the treaty. We, of course, at a certain moment of time will join the euro. But it is not a short-term objective yet. As soon as our structural adjustments, larger labor market participation, our competitiveness, and but really the qualitative economic development will arrive to a maturity, then of course it will be somewhat automatic that the political and economic decision will come. We can now reap the benefits of being part of the Eurozone, but we have done in the last 5 years a lot of structural reforms, lots of transformation in the economy, improved competitiveness, but we are still not yet there.
Okay, Ms. Yoroskova, you want to add something on this issue? We have probably discussed it already at length.
About this bet.
About the fact whether Eurozone membership is automatic, whether you're ready for it, who will be the next member. I also think Commissioner Dombrovskis said this morning, the Commission will start working on a review of the treaty. I mean, once you say the things which we were just saying, probably we'll have to review the treaty, that the Maastricht criteria say that membership is no longer automatic, and that the Maastricht criteria have to be extended to these implicit things which are in there, which already forecast a very difficult kind of decision of the treaty, which will last many, many years before we come to an agreement.
It's as to the first question, it's difficult to say now who will be the first country from the mention who will join the Eurozone. But definitely, if when this happens, it may be a motivation or factor, a push for other countries to join, or at least to thinking about joining Eurozone. As to the Czech Republic, I think that the Czech Republic fulfill most of the criterion of the joining, but still we have not applied for the RMIM2 mechanism. But as I said previously, in my country, it will be primarily the political decision to join, and it's expected. I do not think that this government will decide, but probably the next one, when the situation will be more a little bit quiet, more not so turbulence.
Yeah, I think we would be in Brussels surprised that it would come from or Czech Republic or Hungary very soon. We would all be extremely surprised. That would be kind of a vote of confidence in the EU and in the euro, of course. But anyhow, what I often hear, and if there is nobody who has a bet on who will be the next member, I go on. Nobody has a bet at this stage? Nobody has a question? Nobody dares to say, look, I think it will be that country? No? What I hear often in Brussels, by the way, is that, I mean, one of the reasons of attractiveness for the Eurozone is a technical reason, is for the financial system. The banking system say, if you're members of the Eurozone, you're part of, let's say, this big ECB machinery, and your banks can get this liquidity from the ECB, which disadvantages, which I often hear from, for example, one of the members of my board is Danuta Hübner, a member of the European Parliament, a former State Secretary for Poland and a former commissioner. She said our financial system is disadvantaged as compared to those within the Eurozone because of these big liquidity providing operations of the ECB, the low interest rates, and so on. So that's what I would ask to Mr. Lesay. What do you think? Is this something we should see from Slovenia's perspective? Is this an advantage for the Slovenian financial market as compared to your neighbors?
I wish I could speak for Slovenia as well. I would prefer to speak for Slovakia.
Sorry, Slovakia. I meant Slovakia,
yes,
of course.
They were the first in the club, so you remember that. Okay. No, I mean, it's so far I've been quite skeptical, but I would be very unhappy if I left the panel without saying some nice words about what is happening in the Eurozone. And definitely there has been a lot of work done in the banking union area, in the fiscal surveillance area, in the financial union. And we need to keep on doing the homeworks in the structural and fiscal areas. But so far, what we haven't been having is a sort of a longer-term vision. And for this reason, I'm very happy that five presidents report is there. Also, it mentions it's not rich in text, not rich in detail, and it's for longer term. Also, the idea of further integration in the fiscal area, we are quite happy about it. And I believe, like coming back to the discussion of before, if ever the Eurozone is to become that haven of economic stability, I believe that we'll need to create stabilization instruments on the central level to deal with symmetric and asymmetric shocks as well. Right now, we had just a few minutes ago, we had a discussion on the European unemployment insurance scheme, which could be the mechanism to deal with asymmetric shocks. Sorry, I thought it was cut. Also for the situations when symmetric shocks cannot be effectively dealt with by the ECB, especially when it's on its zero lower bound, the monetary policy is on zero lower bound. I think that the common investment program could work, and we're also quite happy that we have already something in the making. It's the EFSI, the European Fund for Strategic Investments, which we believe is a very good start, and if it can extend its scope of activities and become truly macroeconomically significant, that would help the stability of the euro.
So this is the Juncker plan?
Yes, it is.
Of course, it's used mostly as the abbreviation EFSI, but I think most people know it as the Juncker plan. Has
yes.
Slovakia already put forward proposals for these?
Yes, we committed. I think we were now talking about rankings. We are the 7th in line to announce a contribution of 400 million. Not to the central level. No country, to my knowledge, has contributed to the central level to the level of fund, but on the level of national and regional platforms, using our development banks and and vehicles, we committed quite a significant portion of.
Can I come back to one thing, because one of my next questions was about this Five Presidents report, which of course is Eurozone issue, or mostly Eurozone issue, which may be part of this new implicit criteria which you mentioned, Mr. Balogh. But I meant to ask you to your minister this morning, what is fiscal union? Meaning, if I look at the Five Presidents report, I see there, look, we want to have, what is it? A treasury, a euro treasury by 2027 or 2024? I think it's 2027, so about 10 years, 12 years from now. But what is fiscal union? Have you got a definition?
First of all, I would go back a bit to what you have
I know,
said.
I was going to ask first Mr. Lesai.
Okay, there are many definitions, and I would mention the two definitions that are really probably the most often used. For one, fiscal union is the union of fiscal rules, but that's basically something that we are already having, and that's the union of rules, of surveillance, of enforcement of rules. Then the full-fledged fiscal union would be something with a central budget, with central democratic authority overseeing these, and then there's a spectrum in between. For example, we are not naive to argue that we want a fiscal union very soon, but as I said, some instruments that are not really under political control and that can be set up or designed in a way that they are really working with some kind of indicators, like for example with an investment fund. There can be investment gap or output gap as an indicator of how it should work, or European unemployment insurance scheme. That's pretty automatic.
Stabilizers, that's what you want to have. Some elements, which, like I think Mr. Kažimír mentioned this morning, let's say things which counter-cyclical stabilizers, like this unemployment insurance schemes, or like...
Absolutely, that's what we have in mind.
Okay, so we turn back to the non-Eurozone?
I just would like to come back to one point which you have asked, whether the ECB has helped a lot.
And that is an important point as well, yes.
And I think that were we inside would have been more advantageous or not. There were certain parts of the crisis when, yes, definitely, that would have been advantages. In the turn of 2008 and 2009, that was a liquidity dry up, if we remember. Then very soon, the ECB has started to use different tools to help to counteract against this liquidity dry. But that meant, at least in Hungary, and I think in other Central and Eastern European countries where subsidiaries of Western banks was there, that suddenly remaining liquidity in Hungary was just swept back to the Eurozone, which even deteriorated the situation in Hungary from the liquidity point of view. And I think that Hungary was not the only country here. That was an unintended consequence, positive from the Eurozone point of view, but negative from the outsiders' point of view. In that sense, if we were in, or the ECB at that time would have been ready to consider these unintended consequences and react also for the non-Eurozone countries, that would have been very helpful. The second point, if I take the last 5 years of economic policy, I think that the autonomy of the monetary policy in my country definitely could have a larger margin of maneuver to adjust, to react on the consequences of the crisis, and really to improve the economic structure, the growth figures, and so on, going down almost as much as the ECB. We have now a 1.3%, 1.35% central rate. So the general interest is also very low, but the autonomy of the monetary policy was extremely helpful in this last 5 years, and we would have had much less margin of maneuver being part of the Eurozone, frankly speaking. So in these very specific circumstances, in the last 5 years, I think that, and I think it's not only our opinion, the IMF just a few months ago issued a working paper, which might be known for some people, which was about the 6 new member states' experience. And here, this whole phenomenon, whether an autonomous monetary policy is more useful given the crisis situation, seemingly there are lots of proof that that proved to be more useful in our case.
So you would say more advantages the last 5 to 6, 7 years to be outside than to be inside, with the exception of some elements which you mentioned.
Some short-term
when
elements.
then there